Welcome to Biz Filing's Expert Insights.
Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is Ross Kimbarovsky. He is the founder and CEO at Crowdspring. He joined us today to talk about the importance of logos and, in a more general term, branding. We've seen it in the headlines for major corporations in recent weeks, especially with Dunkin Donuts making a big deal out of the fact that they're just Dunkin' now. We've seen other companies make image changes due to either changes in leadership or due to the fact that they're not doing as well with their previous approach. Papa John's Pizza is a good example of that. So how much does this matter, and what are the key takeaways for small business owners who don't necessarily have the millions to spend on focus groups and artistic designs when it comes to logos and branding? So, Ross, thanks so much for being with us.
Happy to be here, Greg, and talking to you and your listeners.
Well, let's start with the issue of Dunkin' and maybe Papa John's or any others that you'd like to highlight in this discussion with what makes a business, regardless of size, decide that it's time for a name change or an image change in terms of a logo.
So let me start by making sure everybody understands what a logo does, what a brand is. A logo is just a symbolic piece of artwork that represents a business. And at its core, it needs to do really four things. Number one, it needs to embody your brand. Number two, it has to be instantly recognizable. Number three, it has to be versatile. And number four, it has to be timeless. Everything else about a logo is optional. And so the issues that some of these brands are running into, and these are existing companies that have been in the market for a long time, is their brands have evolved, either because of something that they did or because of external factors. So in the case of Dunkin Donuts and Weight Watchers, both of those brands are evolving for the same reason. The cultural shift has meant that fewer people are eating sugary foods, drinking sugary drinks. So Dunkin Donuts is selling fewer donuts. And that's what their brand has been about for many decades. They're trying to appease millennials and Generation Z, younger generations that are eating more healthy foods. Weight Watchers has the exact same problem. People are not just looking to lose weight, they're also looking for healthy eating habits. And so both of these brands have decided they need to evolve. They need to change their brand. In the case of Dunkin Donuts, they are changing their name and logo just to Dunkin' and removing the word donuts to reflect this new change in both their attitude and the general public, because they've also reduced their menu, replaced some items. Weight Watchers is changing the name of the brand and also the logo to WW to focus on health and not just weight. And so we're seeing this with a lot of existing brands, and it goes to the first item that I mentioned about a logo. It has to embody your brand. And so if you have a business that doesn't fit the name or doesn't fit your branding anymore, it's time for a change.
So how do you know what's the name or the logo that's going to resonate with people and help them to understand who you are, what embodies you? Obviously, you could get a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas, whether it's naming or the visual image that people would connect with the business. How do you determine which is the right one to go with?
So here's what we've learned at Crowdspring.com. We've been doing this for 10 years, working with businesses, entrepreneurs, and agencies around the world. We have a community of 210,000 freelancers, designers, namers. And here's what we learned. If you have an existing business and you're wondering whether your branding is out of touch with the business, you need to start by conducting a detailed brand audit. That's the first step. And the step is really about understanding who are your customers, what do they want, and what do they need. And it's really about asking questions. So who are they? What do they do? Why are they buying, not just your products, why are they buying products or services? When are they buying these products or services? How are they doing it? What's their budget? So there are a lot of questions. We actually recently wrote a really detailed article about it in our blog. If people want to read in detail, crowdspring.com/blog, creating a brand identity. So that's the first step, is you need to ask some questions, because what you'll find, and this is what Dunkin Donuts did, this is what Weight Watchers did, this is what some of these other brands, Uber just finished a rebrand. It's their second one in 3 years. Of course, they're an iconic company. They're known by many people, but their existing brand was out of touch with reality. They had a very masculine-looking brand. and they wanted to create something softer, something that focused on safety, and something that separated them from some of the bad press they've received over the past couple of years. So step one is brand audit. Step two is you need to create your unique selling proposition and messaging. And a unique selling proposition is really just that, is why should your customers care about your company? What is different about what you do compared to others? I'll give you a good example. Amazon. How does Amazon create a unique selling proposition? It's low prices generally, but really it's fast delivery. The market expects to get their products in 1 to 2 days now, which means that anybody who wants to compete with Amazon, whether it's Walmart or any other company, has to find a way to get products to people quickly if they're not going to come shop at the store. So every business owner has to ask that same question about their own business. What is their unique selling proposition? And then beyond that, step three is developing the creative elements of the brand. So if you have an existing business, it's figuring out whether you need to rename it. And that's often the case with some businesses where the name just doesn't really work. And you see that in Dunkin Donuts and Weight Watchers. And we've helped thousands of businesses at Crowdspring.com rename their businesses and products. And so that's a very good, strong start, because if you're going to do it, this is the time to do it, when you change your brand. Then you need to think about your logo. So ultimately, as you see these companies, they're changing their brands, they're changing their logos, because ultimately they're trying to evolve. For many businesses, especially small businesses, when they start with a logo early on in their business, it's generally not one that could withstand the test of time. There are certainly iconic brands that have had consistent logos for many, many years, Apple, Coca-Cola, IBM, but most small businesses tend to change. And the time to change is when you think that your brand is really disconnected from what you do. And that's something that we've had tens of thousands of businesses. We've helped them around the world with logo design. And it's an interesting process, because it's a challenge for businesses to rebrand. It's expensive, it takes time, and it's not easy to find freelancers. And that was the reason we actually started Crowdspring. Our projects are 10 to 50 times cheaper than the entire marketplace. And rather than picking from bids and proposals, which is how most of the work is done, so Dunkin Donuts, Weight Watchers, Uber work with agencies, and they had looked at bids and proposals. On Crowdspring, people pick from actual designs to their specifications. So they look at real designs for their brand and pick the one they love.
We're talking with Ross Kimbarovsky. He's the founder and CEO at Crowdspring. And Ross, I'm glad you mentioned the challenges for small businesses here. And obviously, businesses like Crowdspring can be a great resource for them. But they might be hearing about auditing and hiring people. And then you said it could be expensive. And so they're thinking, man, I'm just trying to get my bottom line going here, but I also want to have a strong brand. What advice do you have for, it could be a caterer, could be a florist in a city, could be a diner, could be anything. But some of the more mom and pop type style or regular small business, as opposed to kind of the big behemoths.
So those are predominantly the majority of our clients. Those are the kind of businesses we work with. And the reality is that those businesses have to compete against many other businesses, including larger businesses. So if you think about a logo, for example, it takes 10 seconds for a person to form the first impression of a company's logo. Meaning, if your logo doesn't look professional, or if it looks like thousands of other businesses because you got it from a template, people won't remember you. They won't be able to tell somebody else. And word-of-mouth marketing today is one of the most powerful ways, particularly for the kinds of businesses you just mentioned, the caterers, the local stores. It's a great way to market, but if people don't remember your name, if people don't remember your logo, they have a tough time communicating. So for them, it's important to figure out how much can they invest in rebranding. And that was the reason we created Crowdspring, because it used to cost tens of thousands of dollars to get a logo design if you're working with a small agency, and thousands of dollars if you're working with a freelancer. And frankly, that is very difficult for the vast majority of businesses. And we said it doesn't have to be that way. Our project started at $299, including all fees, because these kinds of businesses, the small caterers, mom and pop shops, deserve to be able to create great brands.
Last question. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time. It's a fascinating conversation. If you are a relatively small business and it's just not your area of expertise, But obviously you've got a lot of skin in this game, but you might not know what will resonate best, although you have a gut feeling for what you like. This might be a tough question for you given the work that you do, but how much do you trust your gut and how much do you trust the consultants?
So I would say there are two ways to approach it. Here's how we approach it on Crowdspring. Every project gives you access to free focus groups, and you can privately or publicly poll your friends, poll your customer, poll your prospects, and ask them about your branding, so that you can actually get insights from people who are buying from you. And we think that's really important. Gut only takes you a certain way, because if you think about our aesthetic tastes are unique. The problem is that what I think works well in a logo design for my business isn't necessarily what my customers think works well. And so whenever we run projects on our own, and we use our site quite a lot, but in the tens of thousands of projects that we've run for other businesses, we encourage them to poll their customers and prospects, to poll their teammates, to poll their families, and ask, what do you like among these 10 designs? Because that's one of the beauties of doing a project with a service like Crowdspring, where you're picking from 50 to 100 different unique designs to your specification, as opposed to looking at a single design. You have a lot of choice. And if you ask people, what do you like, and you're talking to the right audience, you remember when we started, we talked about the first step in rebranding and understanding your brand identity is understanding who your customers are. If you're talking to the right audience, they'll give you feedback, and they'll tell you, I prefer this kind of branding to that kind of branding for the following reasons. So definitely gut is important, because you need to have a baseline aesthetic, but you really need to listen to your audience, because they're the ones that are buying from you.
Ross, fantastic insights and a great way to let folks know that branding is vital, but it can also be done in a cost-effective way, and hopefully they won't have to sweat the finances too much. So thank you for the great insights, and we appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Ross Kimbarovsky is the founder and CEO at Crowdspring. I'm Greg Corombos, and for more information on this topic, please call Biz Filings at 844-202-0707.
Biz Filings, a Wolters Kluwer company, has been incorporating businesses since 1996.